Risk appetite holds on in quiet session analysis. http://ntv4x.com News ID D7C2DD84 2020 12:06:08 p.m. Notes Observations Risk appetite trying to hold on to recent momentum. Markets looking past the economic ramifications of virus and focus on calls for government to step up fiscal support. NBSP Asia RBA left both cash target rate and 3-year yield target unchanged at 0.25% as expected. Accommodative approach to be maintained as long as required and to resume bond buying August 5. Wednesday note RBA has not purchased government bonds under its QE program since early May. Inflation to be positive this quarter. Note Q2 CPI data registered its largest QQ fall in 72-year history. QQ 1.9%, YY 0.3%. Current contraction largest since 1930s but downturn not as severe as earlier expected. Note Q1 GDP registered its first contraction since 2011 with QOQ 0.3%. Recovery from coronavirus seen despite situation in Victoria. RBA baseline scenario 6% GDP in 2020, with 5% growth in 2021. Australia June trade balance $8.2 BV $8.8 B. Australia June retail sales 2.7% v 2.4% EQQ 3.4% v 3.2% E. South Korea July CPI 0.0% v 0.1% EYY 0.3% v 0.3% E. Japan July Tokyo CPI YY 0.6% v 0.3% E. CPI ex fresh food YY 0.4% v 0.1% E. NBSP Coronavirus total global cases 18,196,221 1.0% DD total deaths 692.7 K 0.6% DD NBSP Americas U.S. Treasury quarterly financing estimates to borrow $947 billion in July Sep quarter v $900 B prior estimate to borrow $677 billion. House Speaker Pelosi hoping we'd be able to reach a deal on the C-19 economic relief bill this week, but probably not until next week. Senate Minority Leader Schumer there is a desire to get something done on coronavirus relief. Still many difference on relief bill but must not quit on talks. Senate Speaker McConnell Democrats are refusing to budge on negotiations. Note McConnell was briefed by TSE Secretary Nook and Fed S. Evans Dove. Non-voter demand trouble was brewing as fiscal support expired. Fiscal support was fundamental to a better outlook. Probably 1T used negative rates as a tool at any point. NBSP speakers fixed income FX commodities Iratum equities indices STOXX 6000 0.21% at 362.88, FTSE 0.05% at 6029.92. DAX 0.34% at 12,604.15, CAC 40 0.46% at 4,898.30, IBEX 35 0.26% at 6,993.00, FTSE MIB 0.68% at 19,511.50, SME 0.57% at 10,171.72. S&P 500 futures 0.12%. Market focal points. Key themes. European indices open modestly higher. SME notable exception, but return to trading mixed latter in the session. Energy and financials sectors among best performers. Healthcare sector leads to the downside. Anglo American announces possible takeover from equity funds. BP announces new strategy following results. Reportedly Brookfield interested in controlling stake. Tiziana announces expedited development program for COVID-19 treatment. Earnings expected in the upcoming U.S. session include Qiaojian, Walt Disney, and Ralph Lauren. NBSP equities consumer discretionary Metro B4B.de 4% prelim earnings. EasyJet EasyJ.UK 10% trading update. Hugo Boss Boss.de 2% earnings. Diageo DGE.UK 7% earnings. Energy BP BP.UK 6% earnings cuts. Dividend financials. AAPLC AA.UK 12% confirms interest. Healthcare Bayer Bain.de 4% earnings. Technology Infineon IFX.de 5% earnings. NBSP speakers. Ekba S. Lane Ireland Chief Economist reiterates Council view that outlook is highly uncertain. Committed to providing the monetary stimulus needed to support the economic recovery. reiterated stance that overall PEP envelope was core determinant of the central bank's stance. Argentina said to have reached an agreement with creditor groups on debt. Bank of Korea BOK July minutes noted that one member saw the need to be careful about expanding the accommodative stance while another member believed the scale of government bond purchases needed to be increased. A member noted that inflation pressure would not to be seen for some time while another member believed that real estate sector issues should be addressed by government. NBSP currencies fixed income risk appetite trying to hold on to recent momentum. Markets looking past the economic ramifications of virus and focus on calls for government to step up fiscal support. USD was slightly softer with dealers attributing the tone to political wrangling over a US coronavirus relief plan and the gloomy outlook. EUR/USD holding below the 1.18 in the session in dull trade. Price action locked between two major option barriers that expire later today. 1.1770 strike for approximate a 0.7 and 1.1825 strike for approximate a 0.5 billion pounds sterling USD fractionally lower at 1.3050 with focus turning to Thursday ASBO rate decisions. No changes expected by BO but markets eyeing the prospects for hints about future changes particularly on negative rates probability. NBSP economic data CH Swiss Q3 SECO consumer confidence 12.0 v 23.5 EFR France June YTD budget balance A 124.9 b v A 117.9 b prior ES Spain July net unemployment change 89.8 kv 20.0 KTR Turkey July PMI manufacturing 56.9 v 53.9 prior second straight expansion TR Turkey July CPI 0.6% v 0.8% EYY 11.8% v 12.0% eCPI core index YY 10.3% v 10.4% ETR Turkey July PPI 1.0% v 0.7% prior YY 8.0% v 6.2% prior Hungary June PPI 0.7% v 1.4% prior YY 3.1% v 1.7% prior EU Eurozone PPI June 0.7%. v 0.6% EYY 3.7% v 3.8% ENBSP fixed income issuance ID Indonesia sold total IDR 11.0 T versus IDR 8.0 T target in Sukuk bond auction at Austria debt agency AFFA sold total A 1.15 B versus A 1.15 B indicated in 2024 and 2030 RAGB bonds UK DMO sold A 3.25 B in 0.125% January 2026 gilts average yield 0.068% v 0.017% prior bid to cover 2.24x v 2.32x prior tail 0.3 bps versus 0.4 bps prior NBSP looking ahead 0530 Hungary debt agency AKK to sell 3-month bills 0530 EU ECB allotment in 7-day main refinancing tender MRO 0530 ZA South Africa to sell combined ZAR 6.6B in 2026, 2032, and 2048 bonds 0630 UK DMO to sell A 2.25B in 1.25% October 2041 conventional gilts 0630 EU ESM to sell A 2.0B in 3-month bills 0645 US daily LIBOR fixing 0700 RU Russia announcement on upcoming OFZ bond issuance held on WED 0700 MX Mexico June leading indicators no ESTV 0.43 prior 0700 MX Mexico July vehicle domestic sales no ESTV 62.8 K prior 0745 US Goldman Economist chain store sales 0745 UK BO to buy A 1.15 B in APF gilt. Purchase operation 37 years 0800 BR Brazil June industrial production 8.0% EV 7.0% prior YY 10.0% EV 21.9% prior 0800 UK daily Baltic dry bulk index 0830 CA Canada June MLI leading indicator no ESTV 1.9% prior 0830 CL Chile Central Bank Traders Survey 0845 UK BO to buy A 1.15 15B in APF Gilt Purchase Operation 720 years 0855 US Weekly Red Book LFL Sales Data 0900 EU Weekly ECB Forex Reserves 0930 CA Canada July Manufacturing PMI No ESTV 47.8 prior 0945 US July ISM New York No ESTV 39.5 prior 0945 UK Bow to buy a 1.15B in APF Gilt Purchase Operation 20 years 10.00 US June Factory Orders 5.0% EV 8.0% prior Factory Orders X Transportation No ESTV 2.6% prior 10.00 US June Final Durable Goods Orders 7.3% EV 7.3% Prelim Durables X Transportation 3.3% EV 3.3% Prelim Capital Goods Orders Non-Defense X Aircraft No ESTV 3.3% Prelim Capital Goods Shipments Non-Defense X Aircraft No ESTV 3.4% Prelim 1100 DK Denmark July Foreign Reserves DKK No ESTV 455.8B prior 1300 NZ New Zealand July QV House Prices YY No ESTV 7.4% prior 1630 US Weekly API Oil Inventories 1700 KR South Korea July Foreign Reserves No ESTV $410.8 billion prior 1845 NZ New Zealand Q2 Unemployment Rate 5.6% EV 4.2% prior 1845 NZ New Zealand Q2 Employment Change QQ 2.0% EV 0.7% prior YY 1.2% EV 1.6% prior Participation Rate 69.7% EV 70.4% prior 1900 Australia July Final PMI Services No ESTV 58.5 Prelim PMI Composite No ESTV 57.9 Prelim 2030 HK Hong Kong July PMI Whole Economy No EST V 49.6 prior 2030 SG Singapore PMI Whole Economy No ESTV 43.2 prior 2030 JP Japan July Final PMI Services No ESTV 45.2 Prelim PMI Composite No ESTV 43.9 Prelim 2100 NZ New Zealand July ANZ Commodity Price 2100 PH Philippines July CPI YY 2.5% EV 2.5% prior 2100 PH Philippines June Trade Balance $1.6 BV $1.9 billion prior Exports YY 26.0% EV 35.6% prior Imports 30.7% EV 40.6% prior 2130 Australia June Home Loan Value 0.0% EV 11.6% prior 2145 CN China July Cakes and PMI Services 58.0 EV 58.4 prior PMI Composite No ESTV 55.7 prior 2300 CN China to sell 3-year and 7-year upsized government bonds 2330 TH Thailand July CPI 0.2% EV 1.6% prior YY 1.5% EV 1.6% prior CPI Core YY 0.0% EV 0.1% prior. If you want to read real-time news, text messages to MT5 Expert Advisors page at https://m.me/mt5.expert.advisors.